All right, so it's 9:05, so I think we'll get started. Other people, but it looks like for the most part we got everybody. So my name is William Jones. I've been at Vision since its inception. I did spend a year at Harris before that, and 8 years at AT before that. So ever since I was in college, the 8 weeks straight from college into doing this. So with me today, I got my sidekick today is Not So Silent Eric. So he'll be here, watching along. For the most part, I don't deal with people a whole lot, so I need to go fast, but I will really do my best to slow down and let me know if I do go too fast. This class is really the report builder side. We've been implementing more of the reporting training into the actual regular classes. So you kind of go a little bit over link reports, scheduling reports, that kind of stuff in the normal classes. This one is more of modifying and creating your own reports. So
that's what it is.
So I will cover, we'll start off with kind of editing and changing existing reports in the system, and then we'll kind of migrate over into creating some of your own. And so what I'll do is I'm going to, since we've got financial, payroll, and utility billing people here, I'm going to kind of go through each concept 3 times. So I'll do like one example in financials, then I'll do a payroll example, then a utility billing example. They'll have a real similar look and feel, but just the data will make more sense to the person that's only data to deal with. It also gives you kind of 3 tries to kind of look at it. And so if it doesn't make sense the first time, hopefully it'll make sense by the second or third. For the most part, I think it'll be easier if everybody kind of mutes themselves unless they need to ask a question, just so we get too much background feedback. Because sometimes people's mics are pretty good and pick up everything in the background. And then I'll try to keep an eye on the chat window as I kind of go along and make sure just in case somebody has a question. So we'll get started. This screen here is the reporting screen. The only thing that looks a little different is I'm calling it from Internet Explorer versus calling it from the software. This is the URL address. Another way to get to that from your software is you can actually right-click and open it in a new window, which would open it from the software into Internet Explorer. This gives me a little bit more room because I don't have the software in the way. So it's going to give me a larger desktop. Based on what systems you have, there'll be different folders in here, depending on which access you have, which systems you might have. We got a few here on this laptop, so, but it doesn't look like it has all of them. So I'm going to start off with modifying an existing report. I'm going to do one in financials. I'm just kind of picking on one. It does not necessarily because it's better or worse, just because it kind of works for an example. The cash activity in and out reports. So I'm sure anybody who's done financials has run a couple of these. So in this case, I kind of see the report here, and in this case, this entity doesn't do investments at all, so it's kind of a worthless column to them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to remove this column from the report, just to give myself a little bit more room in the fact that we don't have to see the 0 all the time. So what we're going to do here is you got your smart tag. If you click on that, we can actually edit this in Report Builder. If it's the first time you've ever launched Report Builder, it will usually ask you if you want to install it. You say yes, and it follows through just a quick install. In this case, it'll actually open up the report. You kind of see how the report looks at the design level. Here is your desktop in the middle. On your left-hand side is a lot of your data fields, such as a data set. Here's where all the fields come from. Here's a field set that's for some of the parameters. Data source is your connection to your database. Any images that happen to be embedded on here, in this case, got this image on there. Any parameters on the report. And here's some built-in fields to drop in if you want a page number, page count. This is kind of your toolbox here on the left. On the bottom left, this is where the groupings go. In this case, there's only one detailed level. If you wanted a group, such as if you're doing grouping by fund and then showing a bars number, or payroll if you're looking at an employee, and followed by activity underneath it. Column groups are for groups that go along the right-hand side. We'll kind of show a few of these when we get into the building your own reports. Just kind of giving you a quick rundown of the look and feel. It looks, if you use Office at all, this will look real familiar to you. One of the most important things when you're editing a report is to make sure you save it as a different report. Because if you save this, what's going to happen is as soon as we do an update, it'll overwrite over the top of what you just changed. So I'm going to put this, we got a random folder in here. So I'm just going to put this one in there. The reason I'm putting it in there is just so that we can put in a folder so it's easy for us to get rid of when we're done. But you might want to create a folder for your own custom reports if you just get too many reports in that one folder. In this case, we didn't want the investments column. So we're just going to right click and delete that column.
That was easy. I can handle that.
Yeah. I'll expand out the description here. We'll run it to see if we like the way it looks.
I didn't even know you could modify a report that was already.
I didn't know
They
that.
never told me that. I mean.
So now that investment column is gone. So it's a little bit different than the linked reports you kind of shown in the past. The linked reports are kind of still limited to the format of the report, how it's set up. This one allows you just to modify it to your heart's content. If you wanted to maybe make this more Excel friendly, we could go in here and highlight some stuff and then start deleting it. So we don't want all this header stuff. And we probably don't want the footer either. So remove the page footer and scoot this up. Now this report is more friendly to Excel. So if you want to get rid of the headers and footers and have them so you could be more Excel friendly. In this case too, I'd probably even delete this total line here. Because you can do your own totals in Excel, and total lines don't really transfer very well when you're exporting them. And so this would be a cash activity report in for Excel. So not too many steps to do. Again, just want to make sure you save it when you're done. And then if I kind of go back to the reporting, I go to my random folder, the cash activity in new. And there's just the way we formatted it. And it functions just like any of the other reports. You can schedule them, email them, you can do linked reports off of them. The largest limitation on this type of way of doing it is the fact you are limited to the data that is in that report. So if you start with an existing report, the data that is provided by that report is the only data you have. So if I wanted a field in here that doesn't exist, we can't get it. We have to create a new one. As long as that data does exist here, we can take that from here. So if we wanted to add a column to the right of this, and we wanted to drop in invoices fiscal to date, we can put that in there. And so now the invoice column is now on the cash activity end. Not that that makes any sense, but it's just kind of showing you a way to be able to dump fields in as long as that field is available on the data set. The naming convention for all of the vision reports is the main, always be called body data set. Anything in the other data sets you'll see are used for the parameters.
I noticed someone asking over there in the chat window if it was sounding echoey, I guess. The only thing is maybe just to mute your mic, you might be getting your mic, our voice is coming through and causing feedback on your own speakerphone, but that's really all we can do about that. Does it sound okay right now?
We still kind of come across as we're in a tunnel, or?
That sounds okay.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, we're kind of in a, it's not, we're not a broom closet, but yeah, I tried to do that too. So, all right, we're just trying to look over the chat window to make sure we didn't miss any questions. So, we had a few questions asked about being the presenter. I think we're just going to kind of keep ourselves the presenter right now. All right, so I'm going to do this again now. I'm going to close this one. And then we're going to navigate to payroll. And we'll kind of try the same thing here, but I'll pick on the transaction activity report.
This is Nancy.
Yes?
How did you get to the Vision Report Services folder?
Okay, so in the very top here, you kind of see navigational spots. Are you talking about how I got to here, or?
Now the actual folders. I went out to Vision Financials and I don't see Vision Reporting Services folder.
Okay, so if you're in financials right now, do you have right here that says Vision Reporting Services? The very top left?
Oh, there we go. There we go. I just didn't know where to find it. Thank you.
Yep. So I'm going to go to payroll, and we'll look at the timesheet activity. So we got our good buddy here, Steakhouse, that all right.
Yeah, but at least it shows it. Try to put it in like it's yeah.
So we're going to modify this report. One of the things we're going to do is drop the graphs. We might not just like them. So that'd be a pretty easy change to do. Again, click on the tag, and we'll say Edit Report Builder.
That's the part I missed the first time.
We're kind of getting a lot of crosstalk right now. If maybe some of you guys can mute your phones or not, unless you ask them a question. After a while, it gets a little bit tough to actually hear anybody else if they are asking a question. Another way to get to it is you can go File, Open, and then browse your report server folder and get to it. I sometimes find it easier to go through the navigation spot to get to it, but you can get to it from here. File, Open. So again, we're going to kind of follow the first rule here. We'll do a save as.
Right used to get into. Go to open a new window.
I'm just going to put this in my financials random folder. Just because I want to. Most of them I'm going to throw away later there.
Edit it in.
And I'll save that. Here's what I kind of alluded to when we talked about the financials, about the groupings. You notice this kind of groups down 3 before it actually hits the detail level. And you can kind of get a hint of that when you see it here with the little paragraph of how far it is in.
Okay, there it is. Okay.
And you'll kind of notice when you're in the report itself, you can kind of see what those groupings are looking like.
Yeah.
I see it the name, followed by a department, followed by a posting run, then the details. You kind of see that reflected here too.
Cool.
So in this case, what we want to do is we just wanted to get rid of the graphs because we don't think we need them. So just like in most stuff like that. You can kind of left click, hold, drag it, little box, delete them. And then I can kind of hold this up just to kind of not have so much space, but I didn't need it.
Try it on video, computer.
And then here's the same report again, but without the graph on there.
Is it?
So the next step we could do is we could insert a column on the left and we actually get rid of these groups if we didn't want them. Delete the group once enough, we want to delete the rows and everything go with it. In this case we do. We want to kind of flatten this report out. The nice thing about this is, for some reason, if we get too far and we just think we messed it up too much, we can obviously just not save it, start over. You're not hurting anything because, again, one of the first things we do is just save as something else. In this case, I want to kind of flatten this out a little bit. So I got rid of the groups to kind of create it more flat. There's also a line here for notes. In this case, I'm not going to worry about the notes, so I'll remove those also. And I want to remove this little space in between the two records. So what we kind of did here, I'll kind of show up real fast. It won't make as much sense without the data there, but what I've done is taken out the groupings and made the report more of a one-line flat report versus three groups in. How original looked at it, it's three groups. We had the name, the department, and the posting run before you got to the details. In this case, I kind of flattened it out, and I'm going to grab the name from here. I can drag it over into here.
That's better. That's better. Yeah.
And then put the name in there. And there's good old steakhouse.
There.
All right. You can undo. You can undo, do all the shortcuts work for undoing. Just sometimes you might get too far in where those things easier just to start over if you can start just wiping out everything.
People for the account that I don't need or want. Now you'd have to
You add the entry info so it can show up in the ACH printouts.
and then and maybe the
This might not be the report to add some of the ACH information. Again, with modifying an existing report, we are limited by the data that's in the body data set. So if it does not show up here, we've got no way of bringing it in.
No, that's for one to run off.
But for all the for quick modifications, just little tweaks here and there, this works fairly well for that. A lot of times there's a lot of reports that if you just removed a column or maybe shifted over or sorted it a different way.
You thought the 100% was better?
Mm-hmm.
Still cuts off the right-hand side, that's the problem.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of back to the issue.
But you kind of don't probably need to do that.
Hey, Will, this is Vicki in Squim. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Hey, I was just wondering if it's possible for some of the other listeners to possibly mute their phones, because I don't know about anybody else, but we're hearing them more than we're hearing you here.
I kind of agree.
Okay. Thank you.
It's the phone caller. What is that?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure who it says for phone call.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, thank you. We're going to mute ourselves again for now.
All right, thanks. So I think that's enough modifying this one. I'll try to see if I can find a utility billing one. Utility billing was definitely a hard one to find in existing reports that would use a quick modification. All right. The data set names, in this case, with the report builder ones, we kind of come up with some more familiar names. As far as the ones that are existing reports, since we kind of create them on the fly, it's it's really the programmer who comes up with the name at the time they create the report. So create a definition for every report would almost be more work than actually just creating every report you would ever ask for with that store procedure. I like, for the most part, I try to keep the names somewhat simple, but for the most part, honestly, when we wrote them at the time, we weren't trying to make them user-friendly to modify. So I do apologize a little bit for that. I'll try to work with Brad, who has kind of been working a lot with me with reports to try to make those names more user-friendly going forward if people are going to start using this. It's one of the things we've kind of offered the ability to do this for quite a few years, and not many people have. So we haven't really pursued trying to put more, I guess, time and investment into making it more friendly. So obviously more feedback from you guys as far as, hey, we do want to start using this. We will expand our models and give you more features to use. The more feedback we get from you guys, that it's actually a worthwhile thing for us to do. So for me, I love to do it. I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. It's just obviously from a company standpoint, I can't get them to justify doing it if we don't get any feedback or anybody else out there is actually doing it themselves. All right, on to utility billing. I'll jump back into financials real fast just to prove that in that random folder, we do have our timesheet activity new in there. One of the things that you could do with this too, which makes it nice, is when you manage this in the description, you know, we could type in what this report's for. So one of the kind of nice things, and this is even with some of the linked reports you could do, is, let's get the right folder. You can create a council folder and just create a linked report for every report you need to give to council, put in one folder so that if anybody needed to run that when you're not there, you know exactly which reports to run. So, but using some of those descriptions is kind of nice to be able to maybe type in a brief synopsis of what this report's even for, in case you create a bunch of these and can't remember what exactly which ones each one's for. Okay. On the data set for the, so Amber, for your question, I definitely would just throw Ryan a question about it. We can add stuff to the model because we're looking to add more to the model. So if that's a field that's not available right now, we can definitely add it. I can kind of get to it if we need to, but obviously in a desperate situation we get to it. So, but if it's a common field that we need, we'll definitely add it to the model. We just have not had almost anybody building too-minute reports off of the report builder currently, which is why I've been trying to offer this class more and more. All right, so just because the report looks like it'd be easy to modify is the alert directory. A lot of the building reports, there's so many fields, there's so many groups, it's kind of hard to think of what I would add or change. There's not too many fields to add to it. In this case, the alert directory, it's just because of the multiple lines and stuff like that. I might want to make this more Excel friendly, maybe just make it kind of flatten it out. Or maybe remove some of the stuff I don't need, such as title. So there's the alert directory as it looks right now. It's the report builder. In our data set, here's the fields that are available to us. For the most part, and this is kind of probably true for most reports we do, all the fields that are on the report are being used in the report. A lot of times we don't bring extra fields just to bring them in. But in this case, this is grouping by, I want to right-click this group. I'm going to see what it's grouping by, and it is grouping by alert key. So for every new alert, it creates another group for. So what we do is I want to remove, I don't want to do that right away. Obviously, we can just do this. We'll sort of call on the left. For the most part, I'm just kind of doing this off the cuff. So I'm going to delete this group, and then I'm going to delete all these fields. And I'm just going to kind of build from scratch here. So I'm going to put in the account number, column on the right. So instead of drag and dropping it, I also can kind of click this little icon that shows up when I get in there. That's another way to do it. Account number, then we'll do name. We'll do service address. And we can do alert text. So there's all the fields. You notice the account number looks kind of goofy because of the format. So we can right click. Most of your options, is when you right click them, highlight the field, right click. We're going to go to text box properties. Under number, it'll kind of tell you how you want to format this. Utility billing is interesting just because of how the number's formatted. So this would be a 0.0 and 5 little hash mark signs. This would be for all utility billing reports anytime you want to format the Vision account number. And all we're saying is I want numbers to the left, followed by a decimal, followed by at least one number to the right, and then anything non-zero after that. Click OK, I'll run that again. And then the account number looks similar to how you see it in all the other reports. I'm definitely going to file save as because I haven't yet. There's a little up one level here to the right. So I'm going to go back up, then financials, then random. So if you notice, the service address is kind of word wrapping a little bit, and we still have room to stretch it out. So you can stretch that out a bit. Obviously, the text is going to word wrap. It's usually fairly long. If you don't like the way how it kind of bleeds into the next one, we can fix that by inserting a row inside the group below. And we don't need that big of a row, but just a little bit of space in between the two. And now we have a little space there between records, just so that the alert text doesn't bleed together. Looks like there is a sum. I'm not sure why somebody has some account numbers. Oh, because it was a number, it automatically assumes that you want to try and do a total of it. That keeps you don't really want to do total of that, so we'll just delete that. Report builder is kind of smart. A lot of times when you drop numeric fields into a column, it'll assume that you probably want to do some of that at the bottom. In case the account number, even though it's numeric, we don't want to add them together. We could add some sorting in here. I'm going to go to my text properties. I'm going to do an interactive sorting, and I want to sort by the account number. So now I can sort it by account number, reverse it. All right, everybody still with me, I hope? It looks like the attendee count's still the same, so I haven't get everybody off so far. So, and that's kind of going through a simple way of just editing and kind of playing around with the existing reports. And like with this one, you know, we pretty much took out every single field and started over. Obviously, we're still limited by the data that was in the body data set, but we formatted it completely different than the current one. So you're definitely more than welcome to give that a try. The only caveat at all is the fact that if we modify this report, add some fields to it, we usually don't take away fields, especially now with people editing them. We always keep the number of fields the same. But you know, there could be something added later on. So you could revisit these reports if they do get modified. A lot of them don't, but it does happen from time to time. So if anybody's got a question, feel free to ask. I'm going to just wait 30 seconds, make sure there isn't any, and then we'll move on to the next one. All right, either you guys are all experts now, or oh, looks like you might have gone. No, no, we're good. We're just trying to check the chat window to make sure we didn't miss any questions. All right. So now we're going to get into creating just a report off scratch. For the most part, I'm going to create simple list type reports. Getting into some of the groupies and stuff gets a bit more complicated. Not that we're going to have a little bit in there, but we'll kind of start simple, add a few features, and try and go more complex as we go through them. But I will try and go slow, and definitely, you know, let me hit the brakes if I need to. You know, let me know if I got to slow down a bit. That's a soft question. That's a pretty interesting report. I'll look into maybe doing that. Wow. Well, we'll see how far we can get with some of this. So I might not be able to get to your report, Mary, but we can obviously talk about it afterwards, but we'll see how close we get to that. So, all right. So report builder, if you just want to launch it without launching an existing report, it's here on the top. If you don't have it, it's either one, you don't have rights to it, or you're on an express version, but I don't believe anybody in this class is. If you don't see the report builder 3.0, when it comes up and you get like a 2.0 or a 1.0, definitely give us a call, because especially 1.0, because that's been supported by Microsoft in quite a while. That means you're probably on a old version of SQL, but I believe almost everybody is been updated or close to updated. We're starting to move towards this is the fact that the lack of tools we can use until we can get everybody updated to 2008 R2 or up. I think we still have a few people on 2008. So if you are one of those people, let us know and maybe help you or show you the options for upgrading. But it's definitely something we want to look into, similar to Microsoft Office. I don't know how many versions you go before you update, but you got to kind of think of the same thing with SQL. You got so many versions you want to go before you update. Doesn't mean you have to be on the latest version every time, but you probably shouldn't go 4 before you update. So, give you a few options. We're going to kind of do the wizard base. It kind of makes it nice walkthrough. You can obviously change it afterwards. But we're going to start with new report. We're going to do the table matrix, most common one. If you had existing data sets, you can actually create data sets and save them for other reports. But I find that every report I create usually is a new data set, so I'm more common to do the new ones. So create a data set, I say next. We'll give your data source connections. If you don't see any here, we'll kind of have to show the payroll and build one as we go. I'm going to browse. You go into your models, and that's where they are. So here's the payroll one, and here's model utility billing. Financials, I'm going to go next. our data sets. The model is fairly basic. It's more built for list type things. It doesn't have a lot of group totals. We can probably create some add to this model as we go forward. But again, I just need, I guess, some people actually interested in doing it for us to push going forward with this. What we're going to do here is create a basic list. I'm going to do a couple of vendors. We'll group it by account number, title, and amount, and we'll do some filters on it. So right here on the entities is just the tables. So you've got your account number, which is all the BARS account number information. Got the transaction level, which is at your invoice receipt level. So your transfer, your invoice, your receipt, investment, sale, purchase, that level. The transaction details is actually where you get to the account number and amount level. And you actually go into the financing, you'll see the group headers when you go into like invoice posting. It says transaction and transaction detail. The transaction number level is the check or deposit level. So here's where your checks and deposits are, and then the vendor. Underneath, as you click on these entities, you'll see the list of fields underneath it. So you see another transaction, you see the reference, the date, transaction type, total amount. It's got, some of these have expandability. You want the average, minimum, maximum, maybe the count. Transaction date, you can break it out if you want to see the month, day, year. We'll do that a little bit when we get into some of the charts. So in this case, I'm going to start with transaction, and I'll do the vendor name. And then I'm going to do a link, and a link is kind of a join to another table. It's okay to do a couple of these. You got to be careful not to go too far, go around in circles, because it will cause it to take longer. We'll do a link to the details, and in this case, I'll grab the account number, the title, and the total amount. So if I ran this right now, it would run for all of time. So obviously we want to filter that. Looks like somebody can't connect to their data source. Just throw a ticket in. First for Brad can probably help make sure you get connected to it. So now under the transaction, I want to filter by type because obviously combining receipts, investments, and budget together as one amount wouldn't make too much sense. So I'm going to filter by the type, and I want to left click this, I want to prompt it. So I want to make it changeable. So that way you can run this for invoices, run this for receipts. And then I'm going to do a date. I'm going to throw a date down here twice because I kind of want to do on or after and on or before. And I want to prompt for that too, so I can make it changeable. So in this case, we're going to have a transaction type, a starting date, and an ending date. Make a little red button here, which will I'm going to pick invoice. And here's, so I get back some data. So I got my vendor name, an account number. It likes to throw this little internal thing in there. Title and the amount. This is internal for Report Builder. I've thrown in some questions Microsoft asked why this is here and if we could hide it or get rid of it, but currently they don't. It just is a link between these two records. So just kind of good to keep track of what these names are so we see them later.
I think they are. He said at the beginning of it.
And this is probably the hardest part, is just getting that data set together, creating your own data. And I'm going to go next here.
Not adjusting very well.
And here's where we get our three columns. So the rows are the groups on the left hand, group by something. And in this case, I'm going to group by vendor name So I want vendor to be first, and I want records underneath that. And underneath that, I want the account number, the title, and the amount. And if you notice, it puts a little sum in here, which means it'll give me a total at the bottom. And then what I'll do here for the account number is I want to do account. So it gives me a count of each detail record. So it gives account, the title, and an amount. The one at the top is if I wanted to group, make it more like a cross-tab report you see in Excel. And we'll kind of do that as the next example. I'll kind of run through this again and just show you that, but we'll stick with this one for right now.
Chad's permission wants to set this up, so I think anyone.
Then the next just kind of says, do you want to see it blocked like this? Do you want to see more flat? I kind of like how the block look. Do you want to be able to expand class groups? Do you want to have a little plus button allows you to expand or collapse them? I'll click next. And of course, the all-important, what color do you want it to be? So let's keep the ocean color for right now. And then I'll expand this out, save a little bit of room.
That doesn't, it's not, no, it's the same.
Yeah, and I don't know if this just needs to be through.
And we'll just kind of just run this, see what it looks like without changing anything. So if you notice, we get a drop down, it says invoice, and then we have to type in our dates. And then you get a report. They're collapsed by default. If you notice, it gives me a count. There's 4 accounts there. There's a dollar amount. If you click the plus sign, it's showing me the account instead of the account number. That's nice. We can fix that. So in here, I just highlighted it, clicked on the little tab, one account number. So I want the accounts for the totals, but obviously for the detail record, I really want to see the account number. So we get our 4, expand it out. There's our account number, our title, and the amount. So obviously we got a lot of cleanup to do. These trend dates are not very good descriptions. We kind of want to change the order so that it looks prettier. So we'll start doing that now. So we'll start with the parameters. In the parameters, I'm going to transaction type. I'm going to give it a default. So I'm going to give it a default value. So on by default, I just want to default the invoice. Doesn't mean you can't change it, just means by default it has a value. On transaction date, I'm going to change this one to be starting date. I don't make the thing with my hand. Oh. Starting date, I also want to make this a date field. So now it defaults to that. It's a lot easier of an interface to use than having to type it in every time. And can I do this? Just click on view report, the little thing was annoying. So now we got the report again. So looking good so far. Next thing we're going to do is I like to change this to actually say amount. We'll put some currency format in here. And then also I like to have this expanded by default instead of collapsed. So in the designer, we'll just double click that. Select it all. Make that amount. I'm going to click the first one, shift and hold all those. I want to format that as a currency. I'm going to take this whole row and I'm going to right align it, because I just think mouse should be right aligned. We're going to take these two counts here and we're going to make that a number. Another thing to do is you can right click this and go on to text box properties, number. And here if you notice that 2 decimal places, so I'm going to get rid of that, make it 0. So I don't think we need a fraction of a count. Again, right click, text box properties, number. The next thing is we want this details piece to show up and not be class by default. So we can right click the detail property, go to group property, visibility, and we're going to show by default. Sorry to get quiet for a second. Every once in a while there's a really long chat thing, so I'm trying to keep up. So now we've got where it says amount instead of the total amount. It's formatted with currency. The total is a currency. Go to the last page here. And we get our grand totals. They have format 2. Everything is expanded by default. Create a title. It's called financials list. We're going to save this as, and we're going to put it in our financials random folder again. Come back to reporting services. There's our financials list. The box and how it shows up will be based on your browser a little bit. So it shows up a little bit different in the designer versus runtime being based on the Internet Explorer browser. So looking good so far. We can add another step if we wanted to possibly sort by amount. So I wanted to have the little sort button next to the T in amount. So right click the amount field, text box properties again. We'll go into our interactive sort, and we're going to sort by the total trend detail amount total. And now it sorts within each vendor. We could add images to this. So if you want to, you can insert a image. So if you wanted to put your own city logo on here. One of the things we will add is I'm going to insert a text box, and we can put in here starting date. Ending date. Line this up a little bit, and then I'm going to throw a text box in here. And we'll go to expression, and I want it to be the date 1. kind of line these up. And now when I run this, and go last page, now I've actually got my dates in there. It's got time in there, so we'll take it one more step and we'll format these. Just like the other field, number, we're going to go to a date, and I want to have that one because I don't want the time with it. See, that shows a little better without the time on there. So now we've got the time done. So now we actually have the parameters that we picked. All right, so I'm just going to second this. Got a lot of questions all at once. So, can the logo be added to existing reports? Yes. The only difference is the fact that you probably want to do a save as, because the fact that it would change anytime we did an update. It's one of the things we are adding to our new stuff. So if anybody's heard about us creating some new software, we plan on adding that as one of the features to our new reporting platform and stuff. But the current ones, you need to do a save as, so I'm not sure if it's worth it. I've seen a couple people do it for council packs, but can you do a percentage formula? Yes, you can. So in here, we can go into an expression. In this case, it's this is a sum of all the detail amounts, but you could add any kind of math formula you wanted to. If you want to do comparisons, you want to do arithmetic formulas, so you can multiply two fields together, or if you need to do something else. The receipt from column, the interesting thing about that is the fact that if we're looking at financials, if it is a summary transaction, like from utility billing, there is no receipt from column, just because you're taking a bunch of utility billing receipts out of cash management and collapsing them all together into one record. So it would be possibly 50 different receipt from columns. Obviously, if it's a straight on financial one, it'd work, because it's one-to-one. But the receipt from column for multiple doesn't really work very well when you do the summary transaction in the financials. That's the only reason we've kind of avoided the receipt from column a little bit, is the fact that in financials, it's not a one-to-one anymore. It's now a one-to-many. All right. Can I make total sort by GL fund? We kind of could. Let's see. This one would be a little bit interesting. I'm just going to see if I can try. So in this case, I want to see if I can put the fund number out here. So I want to do the account number, but I'm going to change up. I want to say this is the fund number. And so what I want here is, we're going to look at count function. We're looking for left. want the last 3 digits is what I'm doing, trying to get the fund number. So see if that works the way you want. Someone asked if we could actually put the fund number in here and possibly sort by that. So I'm just going to try to see if that works. Yeah, so what you could do is you could take the left string of the fund number. Obviously, I'd probably get rid of vendor here. And we would do the fund followed by the account number and the title. So if you wanted to have the fund first and then sort by fund, what you could do is that expression. And that expression here, again, because I probably went a little fast, was the left 3 fields. So to know that the fund number is the first 3 digits of the account number. And that again is under the category here, common functions. It's a text function. And in this case, I took the left. The nice thing here is you click on here, and then it shows you kind of an example left, the field description, value, and then how many digits. All right, well, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do kind of a spin-off of this, but I'm going to now have it group by account number. So on the vendor name, well, vendor name is on the left, and at the top, I'm going to have an account number. And so what we should get is vendor, account number, account number, account number, account number, and then it'll kind of get amounts in there, kind of a crosstab report like you see in Excel. So let's create save this one off, create a new one. Save. So it's going to be still another table. Data set once again, financials. And we're going to grab the same field that we had last time. I just actually don't need a title in this case. So we're going to do vendor name. Then on the top, I'm going to have account number. And then I'm going to have the amount. I'm going to filter this. And I want the transaction type to be, I'm just going to lock it down invoice, not prompted this time. So I'll just keep that as invoice. But I still need to filter by the date. For start and ending dates. And our prompt for these. I'm going to go next. And really the biggest difference on this one is I'm going to put the vendor here, the account number up here, and the amount down here. So then you should get kind of a crosstab, the left and the top, followed by our amount in the middle. We'll just change it to a different color just so we can. So name, there's going to be our account numbers on top and then our totals on the bottom. I'm already going to format these as currency under the parameters. Starting date, date time. Ending date, date time. So in this case, we get, here's our vendor names, and here's every bar's number, and here's kind of where they intersect with each other. And this is a different way to look at the data. So real similar to what we did before, just no differences now. Instead of having one account number going down this way, we created a crosstab report. also want to format these two as currency also. And then notice you get totals at the bottom. You also get totals on the far right. So I got my total for my vendor, and I got a total for each individual parts number. So I'm going to go through my questions real fast. Yeah, Josh will definitely have a conversation probably afterwards about some of this to show, kind of talk about our different options and how that could work. So, again, the biggest difference is the fact that, tracking a water payment and depending on what your bar setup was at the time you created it, that's usually some of the issues. But we can definitely talk about that. Or probably talk about outside the class just because it's a little bit different. So, I guess any questions before I move on to doing this for payroll? All right. Okay, so I'm hoping people are still there. Everything's still good? Can you give me like a hi, just so I can make sure somebody's there?
I'm here. We're here.
Okay, cool. So hopefully this is making sense so far. I haven't heard anybody say just, slow down yet, so I'll just keep on trucking. So.
This is Nancy. I have a question at the end. When I went to create a data set, since I'm a new report builder user, my screen didn't look like yours.
Okay, so when you go new, so right here, doesn't look the same, or?
I got that, and I hit next.
Next, and then these are these blank?
Well, I have a financials folder, so I went ahead and clicked on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
get that.
No, I did design a query, but then it looks way.
Okay. Let's just go back to where you're here, and let's click on browse.
I don't want to hang anybody else. We can do it at the end.
Okay. Well, if anybody else has this problem, how it ends up going is you're on this screen. You want to click on browse, and then what might have happened, you might have clicked on data source, go into the models folder, and it should be.
Okay, so create a data set next. Okay, and then it goes to Vision Data Source.
And let's go back from there. So browse, if you're in Vision Data Source, click on the right hand to go up a level.
It doesn't look like yours. So,
okay. It looks like this.
Vision Data Source and browse?
Yeah. So
okay.
You want to go, all right, here, browse, and then you want to go to where you're in the models folder.
I'll go to models?
Yeah, models, and then financials.
Okay.
And then once you get on that, just click that one, and then it should look like this.
Got it. Okay, I missed models. Thank you.
All right. No problem. I'm sure somebody else might be having the same issue, so it is worthwhile to stop for a second.
Manual.
Yeah, that'd be
right.
nice.
I'm going to try a payroll one now. Real similar to what we just did. I'm just going to do a payroll version, so any payroll clerks in there might look that don't mess with financials a lot. I'll just look a little different. I'm going to go File New. Still in the table or matrix wizard. In this case, you want to click on payroll. If you're not seeing payroll, browse, You want to get in the models folder and then payroll. If you don't see that and you're not the payroll clerk, it's probably because you're not supposed to. So, in this case, you might just have to watch if you're not a payroll clerk and have access to it.
I'm going to go get my coffee. Yeah, I know.
So on the payroll side, the entity in payroll is you've got the employee, pretty self-explanatory. The employee posting is actually the high-level posting record, the actual kind of paycheck in a way. I don't want to say it's actually the check itself, but when you view payroll runs or payroll postings in payroll, you kind of see that here's the pay period, the total regular hours, total overtime hours, that kind of level. The vendor level, the posting components are the individual deductions or net checks for the person, and the timesheets are the timesheets. So most reports I'm going to do right now are probably timesheet based because they're easy to run and kind of quick to use. So I'm going to start with the employee. The employee, there's a search name and a full name. Search name is in the last name order. Full name's kind of in normal order. So most reports we run usually in last name order, so I usually use search name first. We got date of birth in for the employee. So I think we had a question about that earlier, but there's actually a date of birth there. So there is, lost my train of thought. Timesheets, I'm going to jump to the timesheets. In this case, I want to see the component, the property, the hours, and the amount. Again, if we ran this, it would be for all the time. So let's put a filter on this, and let's go for the hours, date, timesheet date. We'll do a couple for this one. Go to prompt like we did before. On or after, on or before. And if we run this, now one of the things to kind of pay attention to here, again, that little, the one annoying thing about Report Builder is it likes to add its own little tracking field, and sometimes likes to take a name that you would think would be the employee record. So it's kind of nice to keep note of the fact that we don't want to use, not that it's hard to change if it's a problem, but we don't want to use employee, we want to use the link to employee search. So there's the 4 fields we want to use, or 5, pick count. As far as help, I know some people ask about the help on here. Like most Microsoft products, there is online help. So most of the time you can actually click F1, or once we're off the data set thing, you can click on here, there's help. Since it is a Microsoft product, there's an entire books online about it. Also, with one little thing, it's kind of easy to give a call in and say, okay, I'm missing a step, I'm missing one. We can just kind of help you there too. So we're going to group this by employee.
An online help.
And then I want to see the component description, the property description, hours, and amount. I'm just going to pick a different color this time. Interesting color. All right. Obviously, we know this is the name.
No.
So I'm going to make these currency like we did before. And so we get a total, there's a total hours, total amount, there's the details of it. So we might say that this is kind of fine, but it's kind of limiting because we can't filter out which, maybe we want to filter out what property descriptions we want. So maybe we want to only look for overtime, or maybe we want to look for sick vacation. So we go back to design. We actually can go back into the data set. Kind of looks a bit scary here, but we go to Query Designer. Looks a little bit easier to follow. And what I want to do here is I want to filter by my property description. And I want to be able to select it and choose what I want to filter by. And actually I want to do in a list, because I want to be able to do more than one. You'll see it kind of refresh a little bit there. And then when you go into your parameters, you'll notice that there's a new one. So I'm going to change these to be more friendly for us. On field. Property description is fine. We'll make sure it allows multiple values to on more than one. In this case, I'll just select all of them by default. Not pick a date, but pick a very good one. Go to Steakhouse here. He's on good for a few records. Expand out my range so I got more records. If I want to see just time and a half. So now it's just my time and a half records. We can go back in here like we did before. Look at the details property. And we can make it show by default instead of being collapsed by default. So that way now is you can see them all expanded by default. We got our components, our properties. Our properties can be filtered. So we just want to see sick or bereavement. If you want this to be a static list, you can go in the designer and put in some default values. So you could insert them in here. We also can make it hidden by default. So in this case, it only shows sick. We hit the parameters so they can't choose anything else. We just defaulted it. We can have more than one default if you want to do sick and vacation, and depending on what ones you have, holiday. And then we get the total at the bottom. All right, everybody good? Sounds good to me. change this up a little bit. Let's say we don't want to keep doing it, we just want to do it for that year. So what we could do here is we could modify our data set. So instead of prompting by date, we can remove these, and we could prompt by the year. So to say equals a certain year, these parameters we no longer need, so get rid of the older ones. And so now it's based on a year versus having to type in starting and ending date ranges. You also notice that this is also a one that's by just for the entire year. So we could try to break this up a little bit, maybe do it by a month. So we're going to do similar to what we did with the financials one with the bars number. So we can do here is we'll do a new one. So I'll do the employee again. And in the timesheet, what I want now is I need the month, what month it was for, and we'll just do total amount. So what I'm going to do is on the bottom left, going down the bottom, it's going to be the employee name. Along the top will be the month, and in the middle will be the amount. We'll do a filter here. I'll filter by a year. We'll prompt for that. So I'm going to do my name, my month, and my amount. Let's see what other color we get generic. Forest, yeah.
Is there a now option or something similar to Access to make it always default to the current year?
I believe so. I believe there's a built-in function for get current date. I'd have to look it up. I don't know by default, but yeah, there is a
The now kind of thing?
yeah, it's like an expression. Okay. I think it's like date.now.
Okay. I'm going to mute myself again. Thanks.
Yep. So when we run this one, ends up now showing the employee name, and then it's got one for each month. So what the amount was per month. You get a total for the employee on the right, and at the bottom you get a total for each month. We'll do here is for the header though. I want to change that to be expression. So instead of a number, I like to go to common functions, date and time. Here's your now we were talking about. So there's the default for now. And then I want month name. And then I'm also going to format these to all be currency. Give her name a little more room. So now there is the months. I forgot to right align them. That's the reason I do want to right align them, because it looks kind of goofy if you don't. So there's employee name, January, February, March. Everything's kind of formatted. And then you get to the last page, you get totals for each month. This is all earnings. So in this case, this is all earnings. You can filter by regular earnings or overtime earnings if you wanted to. For right now, it's kind of the default. The only thing we're filtering by is year. But here is basically year-to-date earnings broken down by month. Then we can save this one. We're in the random folder still. So if I'll close this one. Back to random folder. There's our year-to-date earnings by month. So there's that. And then report builder. It's in our recent documents, so we can open it back up again. If we want to make modifications for it, or if we wanted to take this and use this as the base for another report, just like we did in the beginning with existing reports, you can still also open up your reports and do a save as and use it as a starting template for another report. All right, so got any questions about payroll before I move on? All right, so I'm going to go into utility billing now. In utility billing, the thing we've got to remember about utility billing is obviously the volume is a bit higher. So some of the things, if it gets pretty intense as far as link tubes and stuff like that, it takes a little longer to run. For the most part, it seems to go pretty quick, but occasionally I see things go a little bit, especially for printing bills. I'll try to run something, especially the designer. So the account number is your basic account number fields. The bill is the high level of the bill. The bill charges are individual charge details. The readings are the reading records themselves. The receipts are the receipt information at a high level. And the register is kind of a combined bill and receipt. So what we'll do here is maybe we'll just focus on the bill charges. So I'm going to start with the account number, name, address, probably the kind of three fields that are almost required on every billing report. And we'll link to the bill charges. And I want to see, I don't want to see down to the rate description. I think the service description is probably enough. So I'll do service descriptions, and then I'll do the total charge amount. And here I will filter by the issue date. So I'll give myself a date range. Now, see how good our data connection is from upstairs to our wirelessly to our downstairs server. And the reason I sometimes like to do this, especially the first time I do this, is for one, to wake up the server for the data we're kind of looking for, and for two, just to figure out what it's going to try to do as far as naming. So count one's the name, This account is the internal ID. So we'll group this together. We're going to have we could group by service caption. So by the service itself, and then I want to see the account number, the name, the address, and the amount. We'll go to corporate here. Without changing anything, we'll take a quick look at it. There it is, grouped up by service type. So stormwater, here's all the account numbers. Yes, it's some of my account numbers together. We'll change those accounts. Also format that account number. And we'll change that to actually say name. And then maybe we'll show this to be expanded by default. This is going to drive me crazy, so I might as well just go and change those parameters to be starting and ending. Make it take time. So now we got the service caption, you got the account number, the name, address, amount, and the amount. Got a whole lot of zeros in there. Apparently I picked one that doesn't have a whole lot of. Got some older data apparently. So it looks like there's some other pages is what it's doing. I missed the fact that it's multiple pages long. Quite a few things there. One of the things we could do, just I want to see something with some amounts, is we'll put a filter on here. Or the charge amount is not equal to 0.00. that gives us some better info. So now it's shown up with anything that's not equal to 0. Makes somebody get some better data. So now, since Eric asked, can we add a service parameter on the fly? Go to Designer, go back to our data set, Query Designer, Filter, and we're going to go into the service caption. And we'll prompt that, and we'll say in a list so you can select more than one. All right, did like something in here. I like the fact that I added that on the fly and try to give it the same name. So in this case, I could filter it, say if I want to see stormwater, stormover, water base. Yeah. So the difference between whether it's a filter that you never see or an actual parameter is you just got to prompt it, so it makes it changeable. Any questions on this so far, or? Oh, okay. Just reading some of the questions in the chat thing. Landing balance. So just trying to think of the easiest way to do that. So what you end up doing is you'd have to have them on here with different sums, and then you need to go to the expression builder and do a sum of the bills minus a sum of the receipts, and kind of work your way backwards that way. The only problem with that would be the fact that it's not a time in history, so if you pick anything that was not up to current, it might not make as much sense. Obviously, it's something we can write, but with the report builder part, this is more transactional based. It doesn't have moments in time. So, for instance, if you wanted to do a kind of history report from mid-2015 to now, or to like January 2016, the fact that it's not current will make it a little bit more difficult in report builder. It's not that it's not doable, but it could be interesting to try to do. So I created a cross-tab one for billing, just as an example since we've done with the other ones. So what we'll do here is we will do the account, let's do account number, and then for bill charges, we'll do a month and the charge amount. Put a filter on here for the year, and do the same thing with the service caption. And then also filter by the amount. account number, the month, the amount. And here's an account number, month, and the charge amount. So same kind of thing we did in payroll. It's just, again, an example of utility billing. Kind of interesting how that plays over like that. But and that's kind of it for the list type reports. Obviously, there's a lot of different directions we can go with how complex to get it. You know, do you want to grab totals from different places, that kind of stuff. Some of the stuff is obviously limited by the model. So the model itself doesn't have everything in it. It's one of the things where we just couldn't put absolutely everything in the model because it's almost easier to just write it ourselves. So in some cases, some report requests aren't just that complicated where it needs to be written. Probably better just to do a custom report than it would be to try to dive into a SQL statement, because you actually can get into doing T-SQL and getting really into the data, but we definitely don't support that. So diving into the data and trying to figure out how things are related, we just don't have the time or resources to be able to do that. So when you get to that level, we usually suggest just having us help you write it for you. This really depends on how complicated it is. And just a lot of times, if you can tell us what you're looking for, we can kind of gauge that pretty quickly. A lot of times, if you can explain it in an Excel sheet, saying, hey, here's the 4 columns I want, here's where I'm getting the data from, most of the time we can get there pretty close, pretty fast. But again, it really depends on where data is coming from, especially if you try to cross systems. At this point, I'll give everybody about maybe 2 minutes or something to stand up for a second, because I like to stand up for a second. And then if you got any questions, just let us know, and then we'll move on to doing some graphs and stuff as the next step. All right, so I'm going to go do some of the chat questions here. Doing some stuff to build a report, I'm not opposed to it, but that's definitely something that I would definitely talk to Pat and Chad, Ryan for sure, just to see what we can do, because obviously I need to probably get some people up to speed to help me out, since I like to think I'm busy. So just to have more resources to start doing the report builder. Obviously, the more we hear from you, the more we'll do. So we're really trying to push it the last couple of years, because we kind of felt that people are just getting used to the software and used to just the reporting platform in general. That now we're starting to get to the stage where people are starting to get interested in building reports. Where before it sounded like a cool idea, but they just didn't have time because they're trying to learn everything else. So the more we do will definitely depend on the more we hear from you guys. So definitely throw some emails down, Ryan's way, Pat, Chad, let them know that you're interested in more, and then obviously we'll provide more. All right, so I think we're going to move on unless there's any objections. Does anybody have any questions about what we've done so far? Anything not working or clicking, since we try to cover enough time in each one. But I just want to make sure, because since I can't see anybody, that I'm not losing anybody. All right, so we're going to do a different one this time. We're going to do some chart ones. Charts are interesting because they kind of look cool to start off with, but how practical are they? And that's the part where it kind of gets difficult to tell. But just kind of showing you the options that are there and kind of give you an idea maybe of just maybe what you could do with them. And at that point, kind of hoping you maybe find the data or something and just kind of run with it from there. So in this case, obviously you got to think high level stuff. You don't want the details. You don't want it down by a specific, okay, I want to show all the bar numbers and all the vendors and all the notes, because obviously that's not a graph type deal. So it's just a little bit of a different mindset. In this case, we can maybe go by vendor. It's got a nice high level one there. So go by vendor name. And in this case, I will link down to the details, and I want to see the amount. And then we will filter by the year. And I'll prompt for that. And then we'll also filter by type. So I got the amount, I got the vendor. Let's also put in here the month. And we'll just do a pie chart. And we'll stick with the amount. And we'll do the vendor name to start off with. So let's have each vendor and how much they contributed to the total amount. How much we paid out, basically. So one thing about these, we've got to kind of make them decently sized so you can see them. Do 2014, we'll do invoices. And there is the total for 2014 that was paid out per vendor. In this case, there's quite a few vendors. Maybe that's the best example. It gives you an idea of some different things. We can change the chart. So if we want to go change the chart type, we can go to a bar chart. So come in and fill out the transaction type, which is that's right. So if 2016 says select vendors 2016, apparently one went way negative. There's 2015. 2014 will probably get quite a bit. Interesting that it's looks like it's actually cutting off because of room-wise. So let's see if we can find a better example. Kind of like them to do these on the fly. So all right, so let's do trend detail. The amount. We'll do the month, year, and the account number. In this case, I'm just going to pick a date and make it go from backwards forward, and what I can do is keep back in the date, and we'll start seeing more and more stuff start showing up. And we're just going to do it just for invoices. I think I might have to make sure it's my chart. I think I didn't pick the chart to start off with. Filter by transaction type equal to invoice, and the date on or after whatever date I pick. Try everyone. So I only want the amount, I want the series to be the year, and we'll do that with the date time. All right, too many bars numbers, there's the different years. So maybe I can do here. Instead of being the account number, we'll just do the fund number. We kind of did this earlier when we were showing that fund. So I just want to grab the first 3 digits. So there's the general fund, 125, 220. You can get better examples out of payroll and billing, a little bit tougher to get them out of financials. I think I might have picked too much data there. We'll see. Let's see if this one goes. I didn't realize until the second I picked 2010. Wow.
I think the first three, but it's not doing distinct font, I don't think.
Yeah, you might be right. Doing it for the label, but not grouping by it. The labels that way. I forgot to do that for the group too. So we should group by that also. That's better. Still a lot of data. See if we can back that up a little bit. 14. So there we go. So not too bad. Here's it broken down by fund by year. So here's your invoices broken up per fund per year. Since 2014, obviously you can make that. And you can do a range too if you wanted to have a start and ending. You can type. You can't. Shift a little bit. So there is a pie chart in financials. We can try the different chart types. So if we wanted to get into an area type 1. And it's kind of losing some of the detail because it just kind of starts skipping spots. So it gives you a general idea for each year where you're sitting at. So now we'll try one in payroll. And payroll, what we'll do is we will pick on the timesheets, because it's always an easy one to pick on. And we'll pick on hours. And then we'll do maybe hours by month. And then we'll also have it for want to do years too, why not? And then we'll pick the property. So you can pick, maybe overtime hours, that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to filter it by date at all because the payroll one runs pretty quick, so we'll just show them all. But I do want to filter by the property description, so I can pick which ones I want to see. Put total hours in there, and then we can pick by year, property. start with everything. And there's all the different property types broken up by year. If you wanted to maybe limit that down, we could say I want to see time and a half by year. So since 2008, this is all the time and a half. So you can see whether it's growing or not. Obviously, this might be the one where the change into a different type might actually be better. So now you can kind of see by year, time and a half. Looks like it kind of jumped up a bit in 2009. And it's kind of steadily gone down since then. 2008 probably when it got installed. And you got quite a bit in 2009, and this looks like every year since then it's actually been less and less. So any questions? All right, so I'll try this now in building, see if we can accomplish something in building. I might have to remember this this time and a half one for a later date because that's kind of cool and show. So we're trying another chart, utility billing, and obviously you want to do charges. We'll do month and year. It's easy if you want to switch it up a little bit. We'll do total charge amount. And we'll do service caption in this case we want it. And this one I will filter by the issue date year. We'll start this way and we can say service caption and amount. Can everyone hear us still?
Yep, still here.
It was actually not registering on our side that we were actually even on the phone, so much I had a conversation with just Eric, yeah. You can tell how excited that would be. So here is the total charges, total revenue for 2014, broken up by service group. You can actually change some of the chart effects. So if you wanted to change in the fillers, borders, visual style, effects. You can enable some 3D effects you want to enable it. So that's what it is by service group. If you want to, obviously you can change that now just to maybe be by month. So here's the total charges by month. So now instead of being the services, it's actually in each individual month. So obviously, August. If you do hover over these, they do actually tell you what the amount is. So you can see it's, you know, 483,695.31. Let's try another type, see how it looks. Definitely see in August how it starts ramping up a little bit. Can you get them, yes, it's just finding the right amount of room. As far as printing the chart information, so I'm going to go back to the pie one because it seems to give you the most options. I just saw it too. So you can't get to show the details. And you can go in there and format that too to format them. I'll be honest and say that I don't usually use enough to know all the options. I think there's some stuff, you know, quite a bit of things you can do. So I guess, you guys got any questions for me? Like I said, we've gone through a majority of this. Obviously, you know, every once in a while someone will ask, you know, what's the most advanced way you can go? Obviously doing it the same way we do. We don't really get into it because we don't support it. Because diving into the data is kind of a tough one. But you actually can connect to our data sources. And if you have credentials enough to do it, you can actually do some stuff. So you can actually look at all the different, yeah, it's a bit tough when you get to this level if we're going to start looking at the table level stuff. So we usually don't give people access to this level, and if you get to this level, we usually just have us do it. So it is there. Occasionally you run into somebody who is a SQL person, no T-SQL, knows what I'm actually talking about when I mention T-SQL. So if you do have anybody needs that, we can help a little bit, but obviously we can't help, you know, teach somebody T-SQL because that takes quite a while. But I think for the most part, it's kind of been tough, these classes without any kind of feedback. I think it's the first virtual one we've done. So you guys, I was kind of hoping to answer some questions. Obviously, Josh, you got a lot of really detailed, deep reports you want. So we'll probably have to probably chit-chat through some emails afterwards, just because I don't know if Report Builder is going to be the best platform to produce some of that stuff, especially with billing and the fact that it's, you know, trying to not really necessarily grab what's live right this second, but maybe recreate something that happened in the past. So obviously you got to back things up forward and backwards date-wise. But I guess if you guys got nothing for me, I guess I can let you guys go. I kind of thought we should go up a little bit of time for people having more questions, but you guys are being really nice to me. So.
Hey, I just wanted to say thanks, Will. This is Vicki and Squim. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks, Will. That was great. I'm sure your email is going to be filled with questions once I start putting this to use.
Oh yeah, and like I said before, for some of the help stuff, obviously hit F1. The report builder stuff I kind of alluded to earlier. There's quite a bit in here too. They even kind of have a few like, you know, how do I do this? How do I do this? You know, but a lot of times getting around this, getting the data part is sometimes a little tough. But yeah, we'll definitely help as much as we can.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Hi, Will.
And it's also, yeah.
Hi, Will. This is Janine from Swim. Sorry if I'm repeating this question, but did you mention how to access the recording? Because I saw you recording this.
I just started recording it because it was kind of mentioned a few times. I would talk to Pat and Chad. I wasn't sure. I don't follow that part as far as, you know, do we give them out? What do we do with them?
Okay.
So I let them handle all that. They took a lot to get me they took a lot just to get me to talk, because I usually kind of hide in a room, so all those details I wanted to Chad Pat. So.
Oh, thanks, Amber. She just chatted that there's probably going to be a link. So.
Okay.
Well, great. Well, thanks, everybody. We're out.
All right.
Have a great day.